All right, here we are, back again. You may notice I did a little update on the model. I would say this is V3. It's actually technically V4. You know, I didn't change too much because, like, if you look at the old one, I mean, you can definitely see there is a difference. But it was, you know, I think it was around this time last year that we updated from the previous version, from V1 to V2. There was a V3 that I was toying around with, but I wasn't really happy with it. So V4. Not, you know, the outfit's a little different, the eyes, stuff like that. It's all minor stuff at the end of the day. But yeah, we're back. Today we're continuing on with Shovel Knight because we didn't do it last week. We've still got so much more. We did like, I don't know, like a fourth of the game last time. We barely started. We did the first boss. We're hopefully going to continue on, do the second boss, do everything in the second world. So yeah, we should be able to get plenty done tonight. At least that's my goal. Because like I said, King of Cards takes me like 4 times as long as every other campaign. And then after that, we'll do... that's probably all we're getting to. News-wise tonight, we have a few things. I hate the mic noise. I don't know why the mic noises are so bad on this mic. Every little twist and turn, just clunk, 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 clunk. And it's so annoying. News stories. We have like 4 or 5 news stories. They're all kind of small potatoes. I mean, one of them is big, but it's more conceptually big than it is actually big. But we got a few other smaller things that we'll talk about. And then for WIBE, we have the Odyssey. We got a few other TV show things, but it's mostly just the Odyssey. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about how much I loved it, because, spoiler alert, I really liked Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. And I'll go into excessive detail, kind of, about what I liked and didn't like about it. You know, we've got time. We've got plenty of time. So yeah, that's the plan tonight. To drink, I do have something new. I've got a Mug Floats Vanilla Howler Root Beer. So last year sometime we tried out a vanilla root beer that was, I want to say it was A&W or whatever. Bark, is Bark the other one? I don't know. We tried it and it was actually like, it was like a vanilla sundae root beer that kind of tasted like a Yoo-hoo, but I was surprised at how good it actually was. Like, it was way better than I thought it was going to be. And so we have this Mug Vanilla Float, because it must have been Bark, because I think A&W is doing one here soon as well. Yeah, everyone got into the vanilla root beer game. But I got this vanilla root beer. I have already tried it. It's okay. Like, I will say the other one I had was a much more striking taste, but I definitely liked it more. It was so fucking weird. This is just root beer with like a hint of vanilla. It's okay. It's okay. I don't know. I like I said, I've had it. I found a pack earlier this week. It's okay. So with that, I guess we'll get into Shovel Knight. We'll pick up exactly where we left off. And yeah. Alright, so here we are. Like I said, we've beaten the first boss, so now we're going after the Tropal King. We're gonna have to play some Joustus. Fuck, we're gonna have to play some Joustus. Oh, we should get some armor upgrade. Let's see, which one do we want? I always get the money one. The money one is always the best one. I really should do a run where I force myself not to use the money one. And it's because in the original Shovel Knight, the money one just did money things, and then in like all the subsequent campaigns, the money one does something else. You know, it saves you from death, it saves you from pitfalls in this. Like, they buffed the money one in future games, because they knew it's the one people use. Oh wait, we gotta... I remembered we gotta do this. I think we have enough. I think I made sure we had enough at the last time. Yeah, okay. So, for gaming news tonight, we have a few stories. We have 2 Nintendo stories, 1 update on the Duskbloods, finally, and then a Mario Tennis Fever got an update, and I just want to briefly talk about it. I probably should have put that one in the Byte-Sized news, but I didn't. We do have a Byte-Sized news tonight. And then the main thing is the Bethesda story. Because, you know, for the last few weeks, we've been talking all about Xbox. And Bethesda was mentioned, you know, we talked about Obsidian last week. And so this week, at least, God, I think we talked about Obsidian last week. I guess I should double check that. Did we? That was a story, right? Yes, okay, we did talk about that last week. So, we talked about Obsidian, but now we have stories for the rest of Bethesda, specifically, you know, what they're working on. And then I just have one bite-sized news thing, and it's not even game-related. It's actually movie-related, which I just wanted to bring up real quick because, fuck it, why not? So, our first story is about the Duskbloods. So, the Duskbloods, the new game from Software, specifically done by Miyazaki. You know, it was a game idea he had. He approached Nintendo to fund it, and they said yes, so now he's making it. And when we had the Nintendo Direct earlier in the year, they had announced that later on this year, we would be getting more information on an open beta. That the Duskbloods would be doing an open beta sometime this summer, you know, around August, I think they had even said. And so finally, we got an update on the closed network test that will be happening next month. So, if you don't know, according to, right, this is all just pulled from their website, a network test involves using a pre-release version of the game to test performance prior to the commencement of service. We plan to conduct a large-scale network load test to check different technical aspects of the game's online systems. So, right, they want to do a game server load test where we will connect large numbers of players simultaneously to verify gameplay while putting a load on the game servers. They want to do a multiplayer test. We will test various problems that may occur when multiple people play together in different network environments and various phenomena that may occur when having the game users participate. And then they want to do a game balance test, which is when real players test the game together, the developers can gather data about how well the game is balanced. So the network test for the Duskbloods allows for up to 8 players to participate together in each of the multiplayer matches while the game is still in development. We ask for your understanding that bugs may occur during gameplay. So that's all, you know, your basic setup information. If you've ever done a beta test or a network test before, this is all pretty standard stuff. You know, like I remember when I did the Tokon closed alpha last year, it was all pretty similar. And Tokon, I think, announced their closed beta coming up here in the next few weeks. And I'm not going back in. I played the closed alpha. It had its issues. It was very clearly still an alpha. But nothing it's done has enticed me enough to be like, yeah, I gotta go back and play the beta. You know, maybe that'll change my mind. Nah, I did not have fun with the alpha. Part of it was the lag, but part of it also is just that I'm very bad at that game. Now, I do have the same concerns with the Duskbloods, because I have never played a Souls-like. Well, okay, technically that's not true. I did play another Crab's Treasure, but because that's really my only reference point, I'm not actually super excited for the Duskbloods. Like, it'd be interesting to get into the beta, I tell you that for sure, but do I actually, like, I've never really played a Souls-like game, so I worry that I'm just gonna be fucking garbage, and if this is a multiplayer thing, I won't be able to help out the multiplayer team. You know, you see why that's like a genuine concern? Now, here's the thing. I'm still not entirely sure what the Duskbloods is. I really do feel like we need a Duskbloods Direct. Not like next week, because the beta goes live here in a few days, or at least the sign up. But sometime before the actual beta begins in August, we need a sort of Duskbloods Nintendo Director, something like that, to just go over and explain how the game works. Because the last trailer we got, I do not feel like did a good job at explaining what the game is at all. In the first trailer, I don't feel like explained the game that well. So I genuinely do want a thing to sit down and tell us like, hey, here's how the game works. Because I don't know if I'll be signing up for this. Like, on one hand, I'll kind of like I did with the Steam Machine, I'll just be signing up for the purpose of signing up. But like, if I get in, okay, you've never played a Soulsborne before. What do you do then? Do I get my brother to play it? You know, he's got experience. Both of them have played all of the Dark Souls games. I think one of them's playing Sekiro right now. Or at least I checked he was working on it. So it's one of those things where I'd be like curious, but I don't know how much I'd actually like play it. But yeah, so with that, the application period starts this Wednesday, July 22nd. It starts at 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, I guess. Yeah, I guess we are in Pacific Daylight Time. I know there's a whole thing in the House about ending daylight savings time. Listen, I would prefer permanent standard time over permanent daylight time. However, I want it to end. It's time that we as a society recognize that nobody likes daylight savings time. Even the farmers, who is the whole reason we claim to do this for, they don't give a shit about daylight savings time. They just wake up and when the sun rises regardless. They don't care about clocks. The whole idea of daylight savings time is bullshit. Yes, permanent standard time is better, but let's at least try permanent daylight time first. I know we've tried it before, but fuck it, let's give it another go. It's been about 50 years. Oh, but what about the kids waking up to go to school in the dark? I don't know where you live, but where I live, and again, this was a decade ago now, more than that, I was going to school in the dark anyways. Even in the middle of winter, I was going to school in the dark. That has not changed. And currently, right now, where I work, I go to work before the sun rises and get home after the sun sets in the winter. So this doesn't change anything for me. But I just think daylight savings time should come to an end. It's been long enough. Okay, enough ranting aside. So the network test opens on July 22nd. It'll be open until July 28th. I do not know if it's a first come first serve thing, if they're just going to be randomizing it. They don't really say how it's going to work, but that's more or less, it's going to be open for that week period. And then to apply for participation in the network test, you need to have a Nintendo Switch 2 system and an active Nintendo Switch Online membership. Which, those two things should be pretty obvious, but they have to say it anyways. From there, actual selection announcements will happen on August 7th at 6 a.m. Pacific time. If you are selected, you will be able to use a download code sent to you from the site to download the Duskbloods network test version on the Nintendo Store on the eShop beginning August 18th at 6 a.m. Pacific time. So yeah, a few weeks later, they'll let you download the demo, and then the actual sessions for the network test are August 21st, August 22nd, and August 23rd. On the 21st, it's from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., and then again from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. All of these times are in Pacific, by the way. Then on August 22nd, there's just one time from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then the final times are on August 23rd from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., and then from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. So, you know, they tried to give you a range of times. I admittedly do not know what day of the week August 21st through the 23rd is. I'm looking it up right now. That is a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday. Okay, that's pretty reasonable. Especially that middle Saturday time. That's not bad. That's right smack in the middle of the day. So yeah, I think those are okay times, all things considered. I do kind of wish there was like one more Saturday time, but what you gonna do? So yeah, that's all we know about the Duskbloods right now. I really do hope that, maybe on that like August 6th, or somewhere between August 6th and August 18th, give us a Duskbloods Direct to explain how this game works. Because I do want to know how this game works. Like, we know it's a Souls-like, but like, is it... I don't know, I think it was Andy Cortez talked about how he would compare it to something like Night Rain, but it's not really like Night Rain. It's more... did he say it was an extraction shooter? No, not like it's not a shooter, obviously, but it, you know, had that extraction style gameplay. I don't remember exactly how he described it. Because as far as I know with Night Rain, a game I've never played and I don't think I've ever seen footage of, but from what I remember from people like Andy Cortez talking about it, how Night Rain worked was that it was you and a team working together to defeat bosses, and then you would like get rewards. This seems to be more of like you're going in, you're fighting enemies, and then you're trying to get out with the loot or something like that. It definitely worked different. I still think it is interesting. I don't know. Here's the thing. I trust Miyazaki. Even if, you know, I'm not really a Soulsborne guy, I do trust Miyazaki enough to be like, yeah, I'm interested in that, sure. But we're just gonna have to wait to hear more about it. I think that's what it ultimately comes down to, is that we just need to hear more. And once we do, then, you know, we'll feel differently or we'll have a better understanding. But at the moment, that's kind of all we got to work on. For this whole thing, when they announced this new beta, we didn't get like a new trailer or anything like that. Instead, we just got a new screenshot. I don't know why they're being so secretive about this game. Like, it's kind of weird in that way. But they are being secretive, so, like, what you gonna do? But, yeah, you know, it's good that we finally got the announcement of this network test. It's been one of those things that we've been waiting for a while. And now we finally have it, and I'm sure people will check it out. People with far more qualifications than me, because I have no idea what I'm doing. So that's our first story. Our second story is Mario Galaxy Tennis Fever actually got an update. Yeah, they're updating the new Mario Tennis game. So we got a new court, which is the Galaxy Court. It's a court based on Super Mario Galaxy. It's got stuff from Galaxy 1, and I want to say Spaceship Mario is there, so you also have stuff from Galaxy 2. Okay, that's cool. That all looks good. I think my problem with the Mario sports games has always been that, like, this is not just a tennis game. This should be like a fun, fantastical tennis game. But so often it's just like, here's the clay court, here's the grass court, here's the stone court. It's just like, it's just tennis. But I don't want just tennis in my Mario Tennis. I want weird, wacky, whimsical. And the same thing is true for all the Mario sports. Mario Golf, Mario... what's the other one? Baseball, I guess. There's one I'm forgetting. But so, like, and that's how they used to be. Like, the Mario Golf on 3DS game has, like, a giant course. And even Mario Golf Super Rush did a New Donk City course. And it's like, that's fun, that's creative. But so often these games are just boring. I will be honest, it's one of those things where they got worse, and then they started to get better. Mario Tennis Fever is better than some of the stuff that came before it, especially like Ultra Smash. Ultra Smash was literally just tennis, and it was so fucking boring. But this game, it had some creative courts, not enough of them, but having a new Galaxy court, that is fun, and I really like its new gimmick. So the Galaxy court has this new gimmick that is prankster comments. So you have these prankster comments that can be turned on, and they can do different things as they pass by. So there's the prankster comment that creates a double, and it can either go to you or it can go to your opponent. There's a prankster comment that gives everyone a speed boost. There's a Daredevil prankster comment that puts everyone down to 1 HP, and it triggers sudden death. That's super interesting. Oh my gosh. Like that, that's so fascinating. And there are even more. Like, those are just the 3 they showed off. But I really like this idea of taking prankster comments from Mario Galaxy and putting them into the game. That's fun. That's interesting. Wait, but we won that. I've got 2, they've got 1. How? Fix your game, Yacht Club. I know you kind of did, but we're still playing the old version because I haven't updated. But still. So yeah, I think all the prankster comment stuff is cool. I think that's got a lot of potential. I'm curious to see what they do with that. Other things, they've added a new black hole racket, where, it has the special black hole effect where you can suck in enemies. That's cool. That's fun. For Luma, they've added in multiple colors. So currently, Luma has just normal yellow Luma and then blue Luma, but they've added in some new colors. They've added green, black, red, just, more colors of characters. Luma's one of those characters kind of like Yoshi, where it just makes sense for them to have multiple colors. And I'm kind of surprised they don't do more with that. So yeah. And then I think they added game share compatibility. I'm kind of surprised the game didn't already have game share, but it seems like it didn't. So now they do have game share, which, that's nice. Game share's a little flawed, but in theory, I like the idea. I was a big fan of DS Download Play back in the day, so the idea of game share being a bigger thing is nice. It's just, the way Nintendo did it with the borders is so weird. Like, it's like they want you to know at all times that you're playing the game share version, instead of just letting you play the actual game. Because Nintendo's fucking weird like that. You can never really figure them out. So yeah. Overall, I think it's a neat update. Is it actually going to get me to sit down and play Mario Tennis again? Probably not. I played it. I had a okay time. The story mode was kind of dumb. The actual tennis was fine. But I don't think there's enough here to get me to go back and be like, yeah, I'm gonna play Mario Tennis again. But it's neat that they're doing it. Maybe when we get a few more updates, because hopefully this isn't the only one. My biggest surprise with this update, though, is just, why is this only coming now? Like, I'm kind of... because the game came out in February. It would have been cool, like, hey, new Mario Galaxy movie's out. Hey, guess what? Here's an update for Mario Tennis that allows you to play on a tennis court. It's only coming out, you know, 4 months after the movie came out, and the movie's already out on digital. Like, if this had come out when the movie came out on digital, I would have been like, because I did a video when it came out on digital. I would have been like, yeah, it's a little late, but that's fine, I guess. It's at least a little relevant. Still, technically, it is relevant, but less so than it was before. It's just kind of weird. But hey, that's where we are right now, so, like, what else are you gonna do? I don't know. And then our last story involves Bethesda. So Bethesda put out a statement this week on their website that was basically the new Bethesda roadmap. Because last week we had an update that Obsidian Entertainment was going to be making a new Fallout game. And so now we've got the update from Bethesda themselves. The update does confirm that, right, Bethesda is partnering with Obsidian to work on this new Fallout title. Now, I've seen some people complain about this new Fallout title, that like, oh, well, they're doing a new Fallout, but all the people who worked at Fallout New Vegas aren't at Bethesda aren't at Obsidian anymore. Which, you are correct. All the people who worked on Fallout New Vegas, for the most part, are no longer at Obsidian. However, Obsidian is still a fantastic developer with a lot of great talent working at the studio. The Outer Worlds 1 and 2, both great games. I didn't play Avowed, but I heard pretty good things about it. And then Grounded is fantastic. One of the best survival games I've played. Obsidian knows what they're doing when it comes to game development. Sure, it's different people, but I still fully trust them to make a new Fallout game. So I'm not worried about this at all. Sure, it's gonna be a few years until we see anything from this. Obsidian does work faster than Bethesda though. You know, Obsidian gets stuff done in just a few weeks, whereas Bethesda takes a few years. A few weeks is a little bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. So no, I have faith in Obsidian. I think they know what they're doing. I'm not actually really worried about that. Other things, we have official confirmation that Fallout 3 and we have official confirmation that Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas remasters are in development. We've known about Fallout 3 Remastered actually for a few years now, ever since the Activision Blizzard case, and I'm kinda surprised we're only getting official confirmation now. There's a part of me that was kind of figuring it was going to come out sometime this year, but who knows? Fallout New Vegas, on the other hand, that is new information, but it's welcome information. Fallout New Vegas, listen, it's a good game, it's a beloved game, but it's got its issues. It does kind of need that remaster that's gonna help it out at least a little bit, especially on consoles where players do not have access to the mods that are available on PC. If anything, I would love for them to just get the people who make the PC mods to do the official version. Like, studios have found great success bringing in modders to work on their games. I want to say Bethesda themselves might even be an example of that. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is Mojang, but even still, yeah, bring in somebody who has a ton of modding experience and get them to help out with that. I would love that shit. But we'll see. Either way, it's good to know this is finally happening. Fallout 76 is getting an update. They're getting a Raven Rock expansion, which will come out next year. And it's going to be a prequel to Fallout 3. Because I want to say, I know Fallout 3 is like 100-something years after the day the bombs dropped. Fallout 76 is like 25 years later. So yeah, set up a prequel, you know, establish some of what's going on in DC during that time period. That sounds pretty cool. I'm down for that. I still don't really play Fallout 76, but it's always a maybe one day sort of thing. And then they did confirm that Fallout 5 has entered pre-production, and it will be built on the new Creation Engine 3. Which, what else did they use Creation Engine 2 for? I know Creation Engine 2 was used for Starfield. Did it get used on anything else? Did the Fallout Oblivion remaster... Not sure if it'll be a remake. So was the Fallout... Yeah, I don't know. Was the... It does not seem like the Creation Engine 2 was used on the Oblivion remaster. I would have thought it was... Yeah, no, it did not use the Creation Engine 2 to remaster Oblivion. So was Starfield really the only game that Creation Engine 2 was used on? Because as far as I know, Fallout, maybe 76? Creation... I should have just looked up Creation Engine 2. Creation Engine 2 was used for Starfield, and that's it. That kind of seems like it was it. It was used on Starfield. It was going to be used on Elder Scrolls 6, but because it took so long, they're just switching over to Creation Engine 3. Wow. Wow, imagine making an entire engine for only one game, and then just making a new one for the next one. And again, I'm one of the people who liked Starfield, so what does that tell you? But yeah, Fallout 5 Remastered being in pre-production, that doesn't surprise me at all. Fallout is huge. The TV show has done really well as far as I'm aware. I know the first season did. I think the second season did. So yeah, it just makes sense to start pre-production on the next Fallout. I love Fallout. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm a big Fallout fan. And so the idea of Fallout 5, of course I'm excited for that. Other updates, Starfield will continue. They're expanding the settled system with new stories, targeted gameplay improvements, and additional updates while they prepare to launch the new Starborn content next year. I liked Starfield. I'm one of the few people who did like it. Me and like Greg Miller and like 4 other people. So yeah, I'm excited we're getting more Starfield. Port it over to Switch 2. Like, come on, we're getting Elder Scrolls Oblivion remaster. We got Indiana Jones. We got all this. We got Fallout 4. It's on. Starfield's on PlayStation. Give it to us on Switch 2. So there's a prediction for next year. Starfield on Switch 2. I think it just makes sense. But yeah, I did not play the last update, admittedly. I have not played the game since I beat it the last time around like within like a month of it coming out. So it's been a while. but I did like it. Just, you know, not as much as, you know, other things. But I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. It's got some, and I've heard good things about the New Game Plus. I just haven't played the New Game Plus. And then, of course, the final thing, the thing everyone else was asking for was the Elder Scrolls 6. And yes, the Elder Scrolls 6 is the primary project of Bethesda. The majority of the team is currently working on the next chapter in the franchise. And then the direct quote is, "Our teams are now developing the Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 on Creation Engine 3, a shared technology platform we've been building since Starfield launch. It allows our team to support multiple projects simultaneously with new tools, renderings, and systems that define our games." So yes, Fallout or Elder Scrolls 6 is in active development. Right, how it's probably working is that there's a small team doing pre-production for Fallout 5, and then there is a much larger team, which is basically everybody else, working on Elder Scrolls 6. And so, based on a comment made by Todd Howard, because Greg Miller called into the Kinda Funny Game show, and then conference called Todd Howard, and Todd Howard said that they are currently playtesting Elder Scrolls 6. So while we'll definitely not see the game this year, I think there's actually a decent chance we'll see it next year. Not guaranteed or anything, like if it doesn't happen for 2 years, I wouldn't be surprised. But if they're currently playtesting it, I don't think it's super far away. Hey, Anti-Anonymous, how you doing? Streamer University was fire, had me laughing the whole time. I'll be honest, I have seen some of the clips from Streamer University. Some of it has actually been like, you know, you have these creators coming in, putting all these hard work, and then you have some of these kids who are just ditching class and, you know, slacking off. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you got invited to this Streamer University thing, and you're just ignoring it all? Like, these people are actively trying to help you be successful. And you're just, you know, ditching class, you know, people got expelled. I don't know. I will say, the other thing I'll say is I did watch part of Ludwig's thing, because Ludwig gave a whole speech. And while it does come off a bit psychopathic, I basically agree with the majority of what he says. Like, I think Ludwig, from everything I've seen from Streamer University, he was the one who was like, yeah, I'm trying to help you. A lot of you are fucking up right now, and I'm gonna put you on the right path, but only if you give a shit. And it's clear that some of those kids just did not give a shit. Like, I think Ludwig was genuinely trying to help them be successful, and some of them just didn't care. Well, if we're going to be real, no one really is going to learn. They're going to provide content in clip forms. But see, I think that's just a wasted opportunity. Like, you've got some of these really successful streamers here who, again, if everyone's speech was like Ludwig's, then they're actually trying to help you. Like, they genuinely want you to succeed. They're trying to impart your wisdom, and instead you're just clip farming. I don't know. I was kind of impressed with what some of Ludwig was doing. And like, he's giving genuinely good advice. And I don't know, we'll see. But sometimes that's just kind of how it is. Last night, DGG hosted a party behind Kai's back, so Kai flew over there with a helicopter. Yeah, see, I don't know, I guess this is me as an unk, just being like, hey, you know, you've got all these people doing all this great stuff, take advantage of it. And instead, right, you just have these kids throwing parties. Like, they clearly don't, like, yeah, they're clip farming, but like, they've got this opportunity and they're just squandering it. I don't know, I would have killed for an opportunity like that a decade ago. And yep, all these kids just waste it, because, yeah, I mean, Ludwig put it into perspective about how, you know, hard some of this shit is, and how little money, even just going from like the top like 0.01% to the top 1%, how big of a difference that is. See, you get all the information there, and then you take that shit back home with you, and you make bank at home. I don't know. I don't think it's about, like, yes, people were clip farming there, and you can definitely get content while being there. But I think there is far more value to what you learn taking it back and then using it. But weren't most of the people skipping classes streamers though? I don't know. See, that's the thing. I've only seen like a few clips on like Twitter and TikTok, and that's it. Like, I'm not actually like watching people do this. I don't want to say it's as bad as like others where it's like everything I've learned against my will. Like, I genuinely did watch some of those Ludwig things, but that was just stuff that came up on my FYP. It's not something I actively sought out. So, yeah. I don't know. I do think there is some good advice and some good wisdom in there. It's just a question of what is being used. I don't know. You never know with these kids. I said he's gonna do it every year. You know what? Go for it. Fucking go for it. If they put up like an application to be like, hey, you want to sign up or whatever, fucking do it. I know there's that old joke about like, oh, the worst thing she could say is no. But like sometimes genuinely like the worst thing they could say is no. And in this case, that's not even a bad thing. Yeah, definitely go for it. Like me with the fucking Iowa Institute. God, I haven't applied for the Iowa Institute in years. Like, I know Stable Rondo and Flipping Class and stuff, but they're like two of the biggest streams. Yeah. But, I mean, being a disrespectful asshole, that can blow up in your face. I know that's some of what the kids like, but sometimes that blows up in your face. I don't know, it all just depends on how you do it. I've also never heard of either of those people. All right, let's do some bite-sized news. So, my one bit of small news is we're supposed to be getting a new Batman movie next year. The new Batman movie, the Batman Part 2, you know, starring Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves, was supposed to be coming out October 1st, 2027. Very excited for that movie. You know, despite my hangups, I was still interested. However, this week, the Batman Part 2 got delayed until February 18th, 2028. So it's not a huge delay. It only puts us back a few months. But, oh my God, what the hell is going on behind the scenes in this movie? That it just keeps getting delayed. Like, my glob. Because originally, it was supposed to come out October 2nd of this year. We were supposed to get the new Batman movie in like 3 months. And then it got delayed a full year to October 1st, 2027. And now it's been delayed again until 2028. At least it's not another whole year delay. But a delay is still a delay. And that does... that breaks my heart. I hope it doesn't have anything to do with the failure of Supergirl. Because that movie did sadly fail. And I hope it's got nothing to do with that and it's just a coincidence. You know, maybe it's a scheduling thing, like Robert Pattinson, you know, has already been reached out to by Christopher Nolan to do his next movie. So he's just like, no, I'm doing that first. I'd be fine with that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm with the whole merger between Warner Brothers and Paramount, I'm just so worried about all of this. Like, at any moment, the entire DC universe could just be destroyed. And I really don't want it to be, because okay, we're not eating great right now, but we're eating okay. We got a new Superman movie next year. Yeah, I'm very hopeful for it. I kind of wish they would just make Robert Pattinson Batman the DC Universe Batman, but you never know. They were in Phase before it collapsed, and then later them other Phase guys and streamers named Marlon formed a group called Core. Create, own, run everything. Okay. I've heard of Phase. God, I was there for Phase's birth, and I was there for Phase's death. God. That's actually probably completely true. I don't know, I'd have to look up when Phase was formed, but that's probably true. Like I said, my goal is just to outlive Rooster Teeth. Yeah, I've been around before Phase. I was around before Phase, and I outlived Phase. God. That's kind of fucking crazy. What's it? And I know that streamer isn't a real college, but you know, it's still, I understand what they were trying to do. Yeah, so I can still say I existed after Phase. Because, yeah, nobody cares anymore. Yeah, my goal is just to be longer. Rooster Teeth made it 21 years. I just gotta live longer than that. Ah, whatever. Alright, so that's literally the only bit of bite-sized news. Trick shot. Yeah. I don't know, there was sometimes there was good money to be made out of esports. Not always, but sometimes. Alright, so for WIBE today, for what I've been enjoying, I got 2 adventures of my adventures with Superman. So we'll do both of those. Last week's episode, which was fantastic. And then this week's episode, which came out today, that was also pretty good. Because, God, this show, man, this show's so fucking good. It's got its issues. It's kind of getting hung up on the romance subplot, but I'm not, like, upset or anything. And then the final thing we gotta talk about, and really the only thing that matters this week, is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. We gotta talk about Chrissy Nolan's Odyssey. I got a lot of thoughts. Next year you should apply. I mean, yeah, you never know. The only problem is I got a full-time job. But you never know. So yeah, the big thing is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. I, of course, saw it opening night. So I'm gonna talk about that. I'll do a non-spoiler section first, and then we're gonna go full spoilers, because I do have a lot of things to talk about. A decent chunk of it is spoiler related, because unlike some other people, I have actually read The Odyssey. I've read it multiple times, as a matter of fact, both in high school and in college. So we'll talk about some of that. I want to say though, I will not be one of those assholes. I will not be one of those assholes. But that'll make more sense when we get to it. There was a guy that got in from a golden ticket. I think he paid for the ticket. He left on day 2. It was 5 days this year. Yeah. Yep, sometimes that's how it goes. All right, so let's talk about my adventures with Superman. So the fifth episode this season was titled The Death of Superman. And I was, I actually do not like the Death of Superman story in the comics, where Superman fights Doomsday and he ultimately, dies. I've never really cared for that story. I understand its purpose. At the time, the people in the 90s, DC's editorial team, had something they wanted to do, a story they wanted to tell. They knew they were always going to bring Superman back. And even still, I've never really cared for the Death of Superman. I do not like Doomsday. Admittedly, part of that blame goes to Zack Snyder, but I've never really been a fan of Doomsday. I know people really like him. Oh, he's this cloned abomination, a bunch of babies, blah blah blah, some bullshit. I don't care. I don't care about Doomsday. He was literally only created for the purpose of killing Superman. And the fact that he's still around, oh my gosh. And then there's DCKO with the fucking Doomsday Wizard guy. Whatever. So in this, the Death of Superman is the Death of Superman, but they're not using Doomsday. They're instead using Cyborg Superman. But he left because he felt English and didn't fit in. If I was there, I would overcome my social anxiety if I was big. It's a million opportunity. Yeah, anxiety is a weird thing. Like, you think... Sometimes that's just how it works. Sometimes you're anxious, and even though you feel like you should have total control, sometimes that's just not how it works. It's the brain can be your biggest enemy sometimes. And then, are you excited for Avengers Doomsday? I'm not hyped. Like, I'm gonna be curious to see the trailer, which I think comes out sometime this week. I think we might be getting the trailer tomorrow, if I remember correctly. I don't know, it's sometime soon, but I'm not really hyped. I mean, I'll see it, but I'm gonna go see Dune Part 3 first, just to show you how much Marvel has fallen. I'm kind of more interested in the Spider-Man movie that comes out next week. Man. So yeah, back to Superman. So Cyborg Superman, if you don't know, originally spawned after the Death of Superman. He was, an attempt to comment on superheroes of the 90s, stuff like Punisher and Cable and, what's the other one? Basically anything Rob Liefeld's done, Deadpool. And as a result, in the comics, he blows up, Green Lantern City. I can't remember if it's I think it's Star City, and that creates a whole kerfuffle. There's a lot that's happened with Cyborg Superman over the years. But them using him for the Death of Superman, I think is a decent idea. Having it set up last episode where, he's Lex Luthor, he's out of his control, giving him a kryptonite heart in this episode, kind of like Metallo. That's a really good idea. I think the animation in this episode, fantastic. The fight scenes are on point. They're really good. The animation, because you have John who has been sent back to stop them. And then we get his whole relationship with Kara, because John has been very distant from Kara ever since traveling back to the past. And we find out the reason why is because after Clark and Lois die, Kara raises John. But then in the aftermath, Kara eventually died as well. And so he can't go through basically losing his mother figure again. And that's why he's been trying to keep his distance. Now, I've seen some people comment with this episode of like, how is it that, Superman is supposed to be killed here by Cyborg Superman when John isn't even born yet? And I don't feel like the show has done a good job at explaining this, but I interpret it as the fact that John went back in time, moved up the events of Cyborg Superman to, you know, basically the present. Whereas it was supposed to happen in the near future after he was born. Instead, it's happening now before he was born. At least that's how I interpret it. What movies are you hyped for? Dune. I'm very excited for Dune. I'm not excited for that end of Oak Street, just because I've seen the trailer so many fucking times. I do not care for J.J. Abrams as a director. I'm over that. I'm sure there's other stuff this year that I'm excited for, but Dune is the only one that comes to mind. Yeah, no, that's really all I can think of. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's still coming out later. I'm definitely gonna go see that new Disney movie, The Hexed, but I wouldn't say I'm excited for it. I'm excited for Spider-Man. I mean, I'll see Avengers. I'm just not like super, like, you should be super hyped for a Marvel movie. At least that's how it used to feel. And I just can't muster up that same hype that I used to. I don't care about that Cat in the Hat. Yeah, it kind of feels like everything I was excited for this year, except for Dune, has kind of already come out. You know, stuff like The Sheep Detectives, Goat, the Odyssey that came out, you know, this week. It kind of feels like, yeah, everything else I was already excited for came out. Ugh. God, I'm so that's another trailer I'm sick of, The Cat in the Hat. But we've still got another, what, November? Ugh, I'm gonna keep seeing it. So what else happened in episode 5 of My Adventures of Superman? So with the death of Superman, so they have a thing where we had previously seen that Brainiac had armor that was immune to kryptonite. And so in this episode, we find out that in the future, Lex Luthor has created an armor. It's a prototype, but it is resistant to kryptonite. And John has it, and him and Kara kind of split it and are gonna use it to kill Cyborg Superman. Cyborg Superman pulls a fucking Conquest and like grabs John by the face and starts crushing his skull. But with that, you know, Clark, one of the things I love in this show is that the kryptonite, it doesn't just like affect them and make them weak. Like they start growing kryptonite crystals out of their body. That's a very good visual motif. I really like it, and this show has done it since what, season 1? But I really like it, and it's really good in this moment because like half of Clark's face is just covered in kryptonite. And so when he sees John about to die, because also Hank Cyborg is fucking pissed that Superman has a kid. Like the idea that Superman is beloved by Metropolis and gets to have a son pisses him off, and that's fantastic. Great. But yeah, Superman powers up, is able to push through the kryptonite, rips out Cyborg Superman's heart and crushes it. And then as he's like, oh well, if I can't kill you, then I'm just gonna blow up the whole city. So he activates like self-destruct, and as he's like self-destructing, he asks John, like, hey, why weren't you affected by the kryptonite as much as like Kara or Clark? And John is like, I'm half human. And the idea that John is half human, that a human would have a kid with an alien like Superman, just breaks Hank. So much so that he literally powers down. like his brain literally shuts down and the self-destruct stops. I like that. That's another detail that I do like. That, yeah, they don't blow up the city. However, this episode was still called The Death of Superman. And while Superman didn't die, because of everything that happened in the episode, he overused his powers, and now he no longer has them. Basically, he's drained all the energy from his body. He's killed all of his Superman cells. So, well, yes, they did stop Hank. Superman is still dead. So yeah, they do live up to the promise. To be fair, I think this is what I predicted was going to happen last week. I think I literally said that, yeah, Superman was going to win, but he was going to lose his powers or something. Or, you know, Superman was going to die, but Clark Kent wasn't. And that's exactly what happened. Been binging. Are you going to play the new One Piece game, the restaurant sim? Because I was looking at a list of the most anticipated games for August, and that one was pretty high up there, the new One Piece game. I don't know, if I was a bigger fan of One Piece, I would actually be excited, because I do kind of like restaurant sims. I don't know, I forgot what... It's done by the people who did Game Dev Story, who they're pretty decent devs. It is pixel art, but I think it looks fine. Most animes. I will kind of agree there. I don't know, people like the Dragon Ball games, but outside of that, yeah, I have not had any luck with anime games. Oh, good. You only have like 200 to go. I don't actually know how many episodes. I know there's over 1,000. That's kind of all I know. But yeah, My Adventures of Superman, The Death of Superman, I think it lived up to it. I think it was everything I had wanted. I really enjoyed this. I enjoy this show so much, despite all the relationship drama. Speaking of which, so episode 6, the episode that came out today, is called Party Animals. And the episode it's this humanitarian gala hosted by Silver St. Cloud, you know, Batman's girlfriend, one of them. And she's hosting this big gala to give out these humanitarian awards. She's brought in this princess, I think it's Maeve or Marv, who is the special guest speaker. And Jimmy is on a date with her. That, you know, Jimmy is still working with worms, so he got a date with the princess. And Kara is like, she was jealous, and then she gets angry in this one, like, oh, I can't believe Jimmy brought a date. But when push comes to shove, she's just brokenhearted. Because it's been a month since the last episode. We get a month time skip. And so they're here, and yeah, Kara, she wants to be with Jimmy, and Jimmy's just treated her so poorly. Jimmy's been avoiding her. Clark's also in the dumps, because, you know, now that he's lost his powers and just become a normal man, he feels like he's failing to live up to his potential. There's something like Lois says something at some point that's like, oh, if you don't have the power to do something, then you're nothing. And while she's not talking about Clark hears it and gets upset about it, not at her, but just about the sentiment, because he feels like a failure. Which, on one hand, I kind of, you know, I get it. Clark lost his powers. He can't help people. And so I understand why he'd be upset. But I really do feel like he's moping around a lot. Like Spider-Man does this a lot. Actually, usually Spider-Man's really happy when he loses his powers, because then he doesn't have to get involved in other people's shit, and stops ruining his own life. But like, I get it. But you can tell, like, he's still, like, for a month later, he's still really struggling with this. But, you know, Lois is like, hey, you know, just enjoy the gala. Me and Jimmy are up for an award. Vicky Vale is there trying to, you know, rub it in Lois's face that she can't do anything without the help of others. And so we get the gala. Currently 1,000. Which released recently. Yeah, that makes sense. that all makes sense. God, 1,000. That's so much. But Jimmy's on his date. Kara's moping around. Clark is having to watch over these kids, which, you know, the newspaper kids who, this is the first time we've seen them all season. And while they wander away, and they end up finding out that someone is attacking the gala. Lois is suspicious, but, you know, Silver tells her, everything's fine. You don't have, you know, this is my top-notch security. And so Clark eventually, you know, the kids end up getting found by the gunman. Clark steps in and he takes a bullet. Clark gets shot in the arm, but he's able to protect the kids. And then eventually Lois comes in and finds out they're being attacked. And then it's revealed that the Princess Maeve, or whatever her name is actually Dr. Poison. So if you don't know, Dr. Poison is a Wonder Woman villain. This is the third time in the show that we have had a Wonder Woman villain. And don't get me wrong, I understand, you know, this show does use Superman's villains, you know, we've gotten a fair bit of them here and there, but also, why are we getting so many Wonder Woman villains? I mean, we've also gotten a Flash villain, we've also gotten a Green Lantern villain, we've gotten a... who's the other one? I know there's one more. You know, we've gotten a little mix here and there, but this is our third Wonder Woman villain in this show. Not that I'm complaining a lot, because I do like Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery that, you know, some people will deny she has. I do like her Rogues Gallery, but, like, give us a Wonder Woman show. Come on. If you're going to put all these Wonder Woman villains in this show, give us Wonder Woman. Like, I know I've said in the past that I want the show to do World's Finest, have Batman and Superman team up. You know what? I kind of don't want World's Finest anymore. I'd rather have a 3-parter episode that is Batman, or I'd kind of rather have a 3-parter episode that is Superman and Wonder Woman teaming up. If you're gonna put so many Wonder Woman villains here, just do it. I think that'd be cool. I think there's a lot of potential there. Do it, show. So yeah, we get Dr. Poison. Dr. Poison is a furry in this show, and she turns everyone into animals. This is the second time Jimmy has been turned into an animal this season. You know that old joke about, like, the writer's poorly disguised fetish? That's kind of what this like, the fact that this is the second time we've had furries in this show, it does kind of feel like this is the writer's poorly disguised fetish. Even though I do think some of the jokes are funny, Lois turning into a cat and it being the cat from Sailor Moon is very funny. Jimmy turning into a turtle is a reference to the comics, I think. Yeah, she's got a potion or a gas that turns everyone into animals. And her gas mask is a dog mask, or it's like a fox dog thing. Yeah, Dr. Poison is a furry in this show. Why? I don't know, but it's what they decided to do. Jimmy is the one who defeats Dr. Poison, not by, like, defeating her, but by laying on that old Jimmy Olsen charm and then tricking her and taking off her gas mask, turning her into, I think it looks kind of like a fox, but it's like one of those, like, anime fox dog things where it's like it's a dog, but it's also a fox and you can't really tell. But I do like that, and I like at the end, Jimmy is talking to her, and she's like, oh, do you like me? And Jimmy's like, no, I love Kara. And we do finally get a confrontation between Jimmy and Kara, where Jimmy, yes, admits that he loves her, but he was trying to give her space. And, like, she doesn't exactly forgive him. Like, sure, they get sucked into a portal before they can actually, you know, get some conclusion, but she is still mad at him. Like, he has been avoiding her for the past month. She has every right to be angry with him, even if she does love him. and he loves her. And I do hope they work it out in the end, but I see where that struggle is coming from. It's still it's a good show. I'm kind of we've had enough of the relationship stuff. I kind of hope that in the next episode or two, they either put it on the back burner or they resolve it, and you know, Jimmy and Kara start officially dating. But either way, you know, at least we got something. Other things, we finally see Bizarro again. We find out that since, you know, in the past month, Bizarro has started working at an ice cream shop, and it's very cute. And he gives this kid the scoop of ice cream, and then he looks up at Superman and he's like, "That's my friend." And now that Superman's out of commission, you know, Kara is the one who has to save the day. But Bizarro steps in to help stop Dr. Poison. I like that as well. I worry what they're gonna do to this guy. Like, again, he's Bizarro. Something bad is going to happen to turn him into presumably a villain. But right now he's a sweet cinnamon roll, and I'm worried how they're gonna ruin his life. Or maybe they won't. You know, this show has subverted expectations before. Anything is possible, but I kind of doubt it. We get none of the future stuff in this episode. Okay, I didn't mention this with the last one. So, you know, after they prevent the death of Superman, John goes back to the future. However, the future isn't fixed. But instead of Hank Henshaw ruling over the future, Lex Luthor, dressed as Frieza, now rules over the future. And he's got an army of the exterminators, and he's ruling over this future, and he's like, "Jonathan Lane, what made you think that you could go back in time?" And while this episode probably ends with Mixie Ace-Pitalik picking up our heroes, and that's probably going to be how they get to the future or the past or whatever, you know, somehow time travel is going to happen. But I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with the future. There's probably going to be an evil Kara in the future. It seems like they're leaning towards something like that. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this show. I see why some people are sick of the romance stuff. It's more that it's just been going on for so long with very little progress. But I'm not mad. I know some people hate romance in their superhero shows. I do not. I'm perfectly fine with romance in my superhero shows. And how they've handled Lois and Clark has been fantastic. And Jimmy's okay, but they're working on it, clearly. I still think this is a great show. And yeah, I like this episode. I think this episode is fun. It's a little, you know, after how serious the last one was, this one's a little bit more lighthearted. You know, Clark is still struggling with his powers, of course. You still have those serious moments. But overall, still a very solid, very fun show that, yeah, I highly recommend. I think we got 4 episodes left in the season. I'm pretty sure it's only going to be a 10-episode season, but I'm excited. All right, I guess that takes us to the elephant in the room. Let's talk about Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. So, I want to do non-spoilers first, because the movie just came out. So, I will say, I very much liked this movie. I thought this movie was fantastic. When you hear Christopher Nolan is doing The Odyssey, this is exactly what I expected. Now, I know some people are going to have a problem with that when they hear Christopher Nolan is doing The Odyssey, they think, oh, Christopher Nolan is going to ruin The Odyssey. Or, as Hack Guy put it, the opposite. They think The Odyssey is going to ruin Christopher Nolan. Which, you know, I think the escape pod is fine. I have no real issue with the escape pod. But goddamn, that take from Hack Guy, that, oh, the worst part of this movie is when it's doing The Odyssey. Like, you just wanted a different movie, old sport. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh my god. But whatever. I liked the movie. I really do. I think everything Christopher Nolan is doing is really good. Sure, is it not book accurate? Yes. It's got a lot of book inaccuracies, but I don't give a shit. I really do not give a shit. Because you gotta remember, this is originally an oral tradition that was then written down into a story that has then been translated into multiple languages over thousands of years, that for the like 5th time is now being turned into a movie, on top of it being like a musical and everything else. Listen, if you have such a problem with this, you were always going to have a problem with this. Nothing the film could have ever done would have made you happy with this movie. Because we can talk all day long about how the movie wasn't accurate to the book, but at the end of the day, I think none of that matters. The historical accuracies don't change the movie itself. And every other work of the Odyssey ever made has historical inaccuracies. There is no perfect version of the Odyssey, because in order to do adaptation, you inherently have to make changes. And anyone who disagrees with that, go watch Stephen King's The Shining. That miniseries is book accurate to a fault, and it fucking sucks because of it. To make a good adaptation, you have to make changes. I can understand having problems with some of those changes, but that in no way makes this a bad movie. Because there's a part of me that thinks Christopher Nolan has become too big. I know he's had multiple big movies. He did 3 Batman movies. His last one made almost $1 billion. This one might make $1 billion. But it kind of feels like Christopher Nolan has just become so popular that hating Christopher Nolan is becoming the default option online. That he's just too big for his own good. And so now the only critique you will hear is negative critique. Not from everybody, obviously. There are still plenty of people who will glaze him. Everything I'm saying will probably be accused of being glaze. But I definitely feel like Christopher Nolan has hit that point in popularity that he's too popular. That the default option is just you gotta dislike this guy. But no, this is a good adaptation. A lot of the critique about people complaining about the inaccuracy of, oh, they made this change, oh, the armor isn't accurate, the set design isn't accurate, stuff like that. There's an old post, there's an old Tumblr post that's like, oh, you should never put numbers in your book because people will always figure out that your numbers are wrong. You should just say like, oh, this happened a really long time ago. Oh, this thing, oh, that's really far away, right? Like, you should never put specifics in your book because people will have an issue. And your most autistic fan or the person with the most niche PhD will always have an issue. And that's what this feels like, is there are people who have PhDs in Greek armor who this is the only time their PhD has ever been relevant. So of course they have to come out of the woodworks and be like, oh, this movie is inaccurate because of the armor, and so that means it sucks. No, it doesn't. You're just autistic. Trust me, I should know. So yeah, there is some valid criticism of this movie. I want to be clear, I am not writing off all criticism. Christopher Nolan still doesn't entirely know how to write women. His women are all still pretty basic. That hasn't really changed. I think they're better in this movie than some of his other ones, but that's not really saying much. Someone who does what I do every week is a little bit, yes. Nobody does this at the level of hyperfixation I do without at least being a little bit on the spectrum. But no, I think everything about this movie is fantastic. I loved it. I don't know if I'll see it again anytime soon. Like, I know there's like this whole marketing gimmick around like, hey, let's go see this movie 1,000 times. Go see it in IMAX, IMAX 70, Dolby, 4D, you know, seeing it in all the possible versions. God, I could not imagine seeing this movie in 4D. That'd be a fucking mess. I kind of want to do it for that reason alone, but oh my gosh. I think this movie is fantastic. I think the writing is pretty good. I think the acting is pretty well done. I've seen some people bitch and moan that, oh, it's a bunch of A-list Hollywood actors. Like, I feel like if that's your complaint, that they're getting too many popular actors in a movie, that's a you problem at that point. That you're no longer able to separate the actor from the characters they play. That, at a certain point, becomes a you problem. I think it's fine. I think Matt Damon does a fantastic job as Odysseus. Tom Holland does a fantastic job as Telemachus. Anne Hathaway does a good job as Penelope. John Leguizamo does a good job as the pig herder, whose name I don't remember. Robert Pattinson does a fantastic job as the suitor. Elliot Page does a great job as Sinon, a character who is, I don't even remember if they're in the Odyssey. And that's something we'll talk about in a little bit, but they're in the movie for like 5 minutes. They do a fantastic job. I didn't even realize Benny Safdie was Agamemnon until somebody pointed it out later on. Yeah, the guy who played Bowser Jr. earlier this year is fucking Aura Farmer Agamemnon. That's fucking crazy. Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy in... not Clytemnestra. It might be Clytemnestra. I don't remember. The sister. I think they do a fantastic job. Also, only in the movie for like 5 minutes. Calypso. Calypso's okay. It's definitely a more conservative performance, but I think they do a great job as well. It's not exactly what I'd expect, but that's fine. Seeing a meme posting Bowser Jr. was voiced by Kendrick. Yeah. Who is in? There is a rapper who is in this movie. He's also only in the movie for like 2 minutes very early on. It's not... Who the fuck was it? It's not Tyler, the Creator. Is it Travis Scott? I think Travis Scott is in this movie. That sounds right. Because you gotta remember, the Odyssey is a poem. In the beginning of this movie, recounts the song of the Trojan War like a poem. And so they get Travis Scott to come in and do it. And again, it's a very brief thing. But yeah, I get it. I get what they were going for. I have no problem with it. Anyway, Travis Scott, that sounds right. But yeah, I think the casting is fantastic. The practical effects are amazing. Nolan knows what he's doing when it comes to practical effects, and he knocks it out of the park. You know, there is still CGI used in this movie, but it's used sparingly. Stuff like the Cyclops is a giant, like, animatronic puppet. And it's really impressive. There's a lot of other things that are done completely practical that look fantastic. The score, I think it's Ludwig who does the score. And he, of course, still knocks it out of the park. And you'll see, there's one, the bow theme that I've already seen all over the place on TikTok. And yeah, it is the striking music motif of the movie. Like, holy shit. This movie is great. I would compare it to Dune. Like, genuinely, there are certain choices in this movie that I would say, like, yeah, that reminds me of Dune. But that's a compliment. Because, again, these are both book adaptations that also know what to leave out of the book and know what to, you know, change and know what to add. That's a very important thing in these adaptations. And yeah, I think the Odyssey does a fantastic job. I was really impressed with this movie. I will say, I did not see this in IMAX 70mm. I saw it in just standard, you know, movie theater screen. And here's my thing. If you did not know, there are only 25 70 millimeter IMAX screens in the US. And the closest one to me is like Dallas. And I'm not driving 9 hours to go to Dallas just to see this movie. I don't care how good of a director for Christopher Nolan is. I'm not doing that. And here's the thing. Like, yes, I think Christopher Nolan has complete artistic right to do the movie like this, to make it in 70 millimeter, to, you know, do it all on film, the first ever fully 70 millimeter IMAX movie. I think he's got total right to do that. I applaud him. But at the end of the day, 90% of the population will never see that version. I don't want to say it's like classist, because that's definitely not the right word. But there is a certain level of like, yeah, you know, if I could go see this at like a local theater, I probably would. But the fact that I can't, and I would have to, you know, pay money to either drive or fly to again, my closest one is Dallas. That kind of fucking sucks. That this experience is, you know, I know what some people will say, well, oh, if you care, you would do it. That's classism right there. That's fucking, you know, people for their economic struggles. Because I'm not rich. So that's a whole thing. I don't want to, again, it's not a bad thing. He has the right to do, and on an artistic level, I'm kind of glad he's doing it. You know, it's like, just because you can do it, sure, if you, as an artist. But I do definitely feel like there is this certain level of, well, oh, if you can't see this movie in 70 millimeters, did you even really see the movie? The way the movie is edited and the aspect ratios and whatnot, it's taking away from the experience. And like, I guess that also goes into like how he edited the movie, because the movie's just under 3 hours. And the reason why, those 70 millimeter IMAX projectors have a limit of 3 hours. I guess if you go and see this in 70 millimeter IMAX, it has no previews or anything. It just goes straight into the movie, because they literally cannot put previews on the reel. But I do also kind of want to see an extended version. You know, somewhere's out there, Christopher Nolan has a like 4.5 hour cut. And I would love to see that 4.5 hour cut get released one day, beyond the limitations of IMAX. I mean, put it in like digital IMAX doesn't have that limitation, so put it in digital IMAX. I would say they re-release it later this year. Do it maybe in January of next year. But yeah, re-release this. I'd see it again for that. But yeah, there is that certain level. Now, I will say at the very end of the movie, they do, in the credits, they pay tribute to David Keighley, who, if you do not know, is the father of Jeff Keighley, you know, the Game Awards guy. And David Keighley was very instrumental in the creation of IMAX. And the fact that the movie pays credit to him, I actually really liked. That's a detail I really liked. So yes, there is some stuff here that I do praise, and that's one of them. But that's all my spoiler-free thoughts. Let's talk some spoilers, shall we? So, I know I just made a thing about how, you know, what they changed, what they left out, doesn't matter. You know, none of that shit really matters. However, for the purposes of framing my spoiler thoughts, I'm gonna break it down into what the Odyssey left out, what the Odyssey changed, and what the Odyssey added. Not as a point of criticism. This isn't like a CinemaSins video where just because they left something out of the film means I'm criticizing the film. Let me be very clear. I'm just using it as like a, hey, this is something that was in the book that they left out. I'm just using it as a point of reference. This isn't CinemaSins criticism. I feel like I have to drop that at the beginning. Just as like, hey, that's an important thing. But that's exactly how I want to do it. I want to talk about what they left out, what they changed, and what they added. I should be clear, these are only things that I noticed. So I have read this book multiple times, but it has probably been 8 years since I last read it. I think the last version I read was the Emily Wilson translation, which I know that's another thing about these people in the Odyssey. Like, I see people complaining that, oh, Tom Holland calls Odysseus dad. And, you know, why didn't he use the more formal father? Guess what? The Greeks didn't use the word dad or father. There is no winning in this situation. They're fucking Greek. And I have no problem with them using dad or daddy. I think he also uses father. He uses all three at some point or another. I have no problem with any of that. And yeah, different translations have different... have, you know, their own slights and critiques. Yeah, the last time I read the Odyssey was the Emily Wilson translation, which I think I read in 2018. So I have not read it since then. You know, I know the Emily Wilson version is very literal. I know there are some versions that are more poetic. There are much older versions, which I've also read one of them, but I couldn't tell you which one that was. But I've read versions here and there. So these are just off the top of my head. I will not be going over everything they left out, everything they changed, just the ones I want to talk about for the purpose of spoilers. So with all that out of the way, what are some things I noticed? One of the big ones, early on, you see Odysseus, and he's on Calypso's island. I think it's Aegegia. And he's eating lotus flower. Because one of the things they left out was the land of the Lotus Eaters, which is, you know, one of the stops early on in the book that, yeah, just isn't here. Instead, they take the Lotus Eater stuff and they give it to Calypso, and she's originally having Odysseus eat it to like fix it while his body heals, and then later on he can heal his mind. But it's one of those things that's like, okay, I get what they were going for. I definitely would have kept the land of the Lotus Eaters, but I get it. Another big change, there is no Bag of Winds. So at a certain point in the book, they end up in Aeolus. I think it's Aeolus. And the king of Aeolus gives them a Bag of Winds. And then right before they make their way back to, like, they're right outside of Ithaca, and the crewmates open the Bag of Winds, and it blows them all the way back to the Aeolus. And so then they go to the king and are like, hey, can we get another Bag of Winds? And he's like, no, you're super cursed, buddy. Get out. And so that just doesn't show up at all. I do kind of get why they cut it out. A very big part of this movie is it's the end of hospitality. They constantly make mention throughout the movie about this idea of Zeus's law, which is that, hey, you should always invite strangers into your... Like, if a stranger comes to your door asking for food and shelter, you should give it to them, because you never know when it's going to be a god in disguise. And the movie kind of is about the potential end of Zeus's law. This end of hospitality, the end of the civilized world. And the Bag of Winds directly contradicts that, because they go to the king of Aeolus and he greets them with hospitality and gives them the Bag of Winds. So that kind of goes against some of the main themes of the movie. If like, oh, he's coming across all these other monsters that do not respect Zeus's law or hospitality, and it's only, and then all of a sudden there's this one person who does, and then it goes back to nobody respecting it. It'd be out of place. I understand why he didn't do it. Speaking of the Cyclops, so in the book, when they get trapped inside the Cyclops' cave, he eats a few of the people, and then they get the Cyclops drunk. And after the Cyclops is drunk, they talk to him because he can speak. And it's during this conversation that Odysseus introduces himself as nobody. It's one of the more famous lines in the book. And then it's only after he's blinded the Cyclops and, you know, they escape, does he reveal his true name as Odysseus, which then, you know, the Cyclops goes and cries to his dad Poseidon, who then curses Odysseus's quest. And in this one, that doesn't happen. Instead, while they do say the Cyclops can speak, and we do hear him crying out for his dad Poseidon after he gets stabbed, he doesn't make conversation with him. Instead, they just go into the Cyclops' cave, and he just eats 2 of them. He eats 2 of the guys, and it's the whole Cyclops scene is so well done. Him eating the guys is clearly a homage to the painting, the Titan Kronos eating his children, which if you go look up that painting, they literally create that in a shot in this movie. And it's gruesome, and oh my god, there are so many gruesome things in this movie. We'll talk about some of them. But that was, they clearly had a purpose. You know, they're still keeping up. The monster doesn't care about Zeus's law or anything like that. There are no other Cyclopses. So even though they have a chance to kill the Cyclops on the first night, they decide not to do it because how are they going to open the door? There are no other Cyclopses. Or Cyclopes, I guess. But no, the whole scene with the Cyclops is really good. It's just one of those weird things where it's like, this is one of the more iconic lines in the Odyssey, is the "nobody stabbed me." And because it's a great example of showing off Odysseus's wisdom, but also his hubris. And yeah, it's just kind of a weird choice not to do it in the movie. I get why they did it. It's kind of like when we talked about Project Hail Mary, and I was like, oh, that whole line about big spooky spider is one of the more iconic lines in the book. And I was kind of surprised it wasn't in the movie. It's just, you know, you would think like all the iconic lines would make it in. But no, not always. Another thing is during the whole Trojan War thing, there is no Achilles. I know there was a rumor that Elliot Page was going to play Achilles. He does not play Achilles. He plays a different character named Sinon, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, there is no Achilles in this movie. There's no mention of Achilles or anything like that. When they go to the underworld, because they do go to the underworld, I know it's not exactly like the fire and brimstone underworld. It's more of this like black sand beach, but it's basically the underworld. And yeah, there's no mention of Achilles whatsoever, which kind of surprised me. So that's just the basic stuff that I know they left out. Again, there's plenty of others. Go get someone who has a PhD in the Odyssey to tell you about those. At the end of the day, I'm trying to highlight the stuff that I care about. For things they changed. So, the biggest change in this movie is that there are no gods in this movie. Like, yes, Athena shows up. Athena is played by Zendaya, but it's not clear if it's really Athena or just a figment in Odysseus's head. Because, like, in the book, for example, early on, a beggar shows up and gives Telemachus the idea to go to Sparta to find out what happened to his dad. That happens in the movie, and the beggar does show up in the movie, but there is no hint that it's Athena. It's just a beggar. I mean, it could still be Athena, but it's not, like, they don't... In the book, we know for sure it's Athena, and not in the movie. But yeah, there are no gods. Most of the time, the gods are just through, like, hey, the raging water is Poseidon. The thunderstorm, that's Zeus. There are no gods. Hermes. Hermes plays a big part in the book. No, he's not in the movie at all. I don't even think they mention Hermes. At one point, I know they do mention the sun god, which I did not hear them say Apollo. In the book, it's Helios, the sun god. But I guess someone else heard Apollo, which I did not hear. Maybe they did use Apollo. I just heard them say the sun god. So I don't know, but you don't see any of the gods. With two sort of exceptions. Circe and Calypso. So we'll talk about both of them. Circe, the whole Circe scene is fantastic. It's fucking horrifying. So what happens is they come to Circe's island. Odysseus goes off to hunt some food, while the rest of the crew goes up to visit Circe's place. She's just a lone woman living in a shack. And they come in and Circe's afraid of them, but they're like, no, we don't want to hurt you. We're just looking for food and supplies. And so Circe offers them some food. They start eating, and then they can't stop eating. And they're like screaming while they're eating. And then she goes up to them and she starts like pulling on their skin and molding them like clay, turning them into pigs. And it's fucking horrifying. And the sound design. Oh my God, the sound design. Every time she moves them, it sounds like cracking a bone, and it just sends chills down your spine. Like, holy shit. The Circe scene is horrifying, and it's so well done. It is so well done. But yeah, there is no indication that Circe is a god, which I want to say she's a daughter of Helios, if I remember correctly. I don't know, it's been a while. But there is no indication of that. Instead, eventually Odysseus comes in, knowing that his men have already been turned into pigs, and basically threatens Circe, and it's like, hey, you turn my men back and we'll just leave. The men want to kill Circe, but he tells them no. And then as they leave, she tells them like, hey, the gods only want you to get home. The rest of your crew will die. Which he says that he'll fight in the face of the gods. And she's like, I don't know. I doubt it. So that's that. From there, we also get Calypso. Because another thing is, in the book, they spend about a year with Circe. Calypso, on the other hand, they do... So by this point, the whole crew is dead. Because Odysseus has been eating the lotus flower, he doesn't know that his crew is dead. He doesn't know that he has a son or a wife. He's just stuck on Calypso's island while he heals. It's still been about 7 years on this island. And yeah, Calypso's keeping him there. Calypso, I don't remember who portrays Calypso. Calypso is portrayed by Charlize Theron, who I think she does a decent job. It's a lot more stoic than you would expect. Like, there's a certain part of Calypso that is, you know, she's the daughter of Atlas. She's been banished to this island for many years. She's lonely, she's desperate. And she plays it a lot more stoically. Like, there's a part of her that's like, okay, I've erased Odysseus's memories. My hope is that he would fall in love with me and not want to go back to his wife and kid. But once he remembers he has a wife and kid, he wants to leave. And she kind of recognizes it before he does. And eventually she tells him to stop eating the lotus flower, so that way he will be able to leave. And eventually he does leave. He makes a little makeshift raft. And now, the language update, I don't mind most of it. The one that did throw me off, though, is when Calypso's like, oh, you have to leave, you have to let go of control if you want to leave the island. It's a leap of faith. I don't know how old the term leap of faith is, but that's the one moment, like, the whole dad stuff didn't take me out at all. Most of the language didn't take me out, didn't bother me. That's the one where I was like, wait, leap of faith. Like, if she had just told him you have to have faith, I would have been like, yeah, that's fine. Okay, that makes sense. But saying it's a leap of faith, he has to let go of control. I don't know. But yeah, other than that, those are the only two sort of gods. None of the gods show up. I know people are going to have a problem with that. I personally don't mind. That actually would be interesting. Let's see. Other changes. They have a lot of the Trojan War in this movie. So, as far as I remember, the actual story of the Trojan horse is not in the Iliad. Like, the Iliad ends with Achilles killing Hector, and then Hector's dad asking for his body back, so that way they can give him a proper burial. In my memory, it's the Odyssey is where you get the story of the Trojan horse and the sacking of Troy. It might not even be in the Odyssey, it might be in the Aeneid though. It's been so long I kind of don't remember. But no, they do a lot of the Odyssey. They do a lot of the Trojan War. And I've seen some people complain that like, oh, Nolan just wanted to make a war movie, but instead of setting it in modern day, he set it in ancient Greece. I don't think that's much of an issue. I really don't think that's that much of an issue. I think Nolan does a fine job. His war movie is fine. Ha. Ha ha ha. But yeah, I think everything with the Trojan horse, we get like a long extended sequence where we see the soldiers trapped in the Trojan horse for days. And they have to defecate in the horse. They can't make a sound, and it's good. Everything with the Trojan horse is good. The actual ransacking of Troy is done really well. All of the imagery is fantastic. The whole thing they did with the Athena, with both Zendaya, but also cutting off the statue's head. The iconography of the Trojan horse as the sort of representation of, not in like the Odyssey and I guess the Aeneid. The Trojan horse represents, Odysseus's greatest success. But in the movie, it treats it like a failure because it's a violation of Zeus's law, taking one of the things the Greeks hold the most sacred and turning it against their enemies. And, they win the war, sure, but it comes at the cost of violating their beliefs. And that's why a big part of the movie is about the end of hospitality. Because I don't remember how much they mention Zeus's law in the actual Odyssey itself, but it's so important in this movie. Every other sentence is about Zeus's law, the importance of Zeus's law. Robert Pattinson's character hates the Zeus's law stuff. Oh, another beggar here in this house that, again, isn't even mine. Like, Zeus's law is so important. Everywhere Odysseus and his crew go, they expect to, hear Zeus's law. And no, instead, they get turned against them. When they fight the Lystragonians, they don't adhere to Zeus's law. The Cyclops. Oh god, not another. They constantly go against Zeus's law. And that's, again, one of the main themes of this movie. Is that so there's this whole bit with the sea people, which, again, I do not think was in the Odyssey, the book. This is something added for the movie, and I'll bring it up now. But yeah, this is something that, they don't mention the sea people at all. But eventually you learn Odysseus and his crew are the sea people because they don't respect Zeus's law. And it's now become, this story, this myth. And I think it does a really good job at going with the theme of the movie. Another change, so if you've ever seen a Christopher Nolan movie, he's big on symbols. Nolan has a symbol motif. He really likes his physical symbols in his movie. The most famous ones are in Inception, the top in Inception, the wedding ring, stuff like that. This movie has two important symbols. Early on in the movie, Penelope gives Odysseus a brooch of Athena. And is like, hey, if anyone tells me you had this brooch, I'll know they actually met you. So that's one important symbol. And then the other one is in order to conscript people into the Trojan War, they draw lots. They do a lottery. And Sinon has one of the Sinon gets forced one of the lots because Robert Pattinson's character, even though he constantly talks about, oh, if I had gone to war, it would have been great, but I wasn't allowed. But it's more that Robert Pattinson's character was promised to give Sinon's father money for his son going to war. And Robert Pattinson didn't do that. And so instead, Odysseus has held onto the lot for the past 10 years and is using it against... And, you know, eventually uses it against Robert Pattinson and places it in his mouth when he dies. And then the final part, things they added. So, like I was saying, the whole bit about the people from the sea, this idea that, you know, as the Greek age, the Mycenaean age comes to an end, we now have these groups of people who are coming in from the sea and just kill and pillage and don't follow Zeus's law. As far as I'm aware, that's not in the original book. I'm pretty sure that's just added for this movie to get down this theme of the end of civilization. And that since, you know, they broke Zeus's law at Troy, now everybody's worried about them coming to their village next. And so that's why no matter where Odysseus goes, he doesn't see any, right? He constantly hears about the sea people, but never sees them. Nobody obeys Zeus's law. There's a big moment where, what was it? Oh God, what was I about to say? I don't know. But it's all very well done. The whole Zeus's law thing, getting up to this theme, because that's the whole thing. Odysseus is being punished in this movie. The reason why it takes him 10 years to get home is because he violated Zeus's law. And so this is the gods punishing him. Another person we see punished is Agamemnon. So I know Agamemnon shows up in the underworld in the Odyssey, but I don't know if they actually talk about like how he died, because there's a whole other Greek story where in the lead up to the Trojan War, Agamemnon sacrifices his daughter because he needs to give a sacrifice to Zeus for good winds. And the only sacrifice Zeus will accept is Agamemnon's daughter. So he gives up his daughter and kills her. And of course his wife, I think it's Clytemnestra, is pissed off and, you know, vows revenge. So when Agamemnon easily finds his way back after the war, it's because Clytemnestra has planned his death. And we get a really great moment where we get to see her kill him. They don't bring up any, because that's another story, by the way. The whole, because Clytemnestra kills Agamemnon, and then their son kills Clytemnestra, and then the Furies start hunting him down. So he runs to Athens, where they then establish the Athenian legal system, where it's determined that if that a man can kill his mother because, you know, this is, you know, thousands of years ago and women are still property, and because she killed her husband, you know, only the husband had rights. It's kind of fucked up by modern sensibilities, but that's a whole other story. All we get is the part where it's, hey, Agamemnon was killed by his wife, and then at some point his son avenged him. I want to say Menelaus brings that up. Speaking of Menelaus, right, Telemachus does go to see the King of Sparta and Helen of Troy, and we see Helen has been scarred, and it's implied, they don't specifically say it's done by her husband, but it's implied that Menelaus is the one who scarred her, because, you know, she was abducted for the war for being the most beautiful woman. So now he scarred her to make sure nobody will ever take her again. Again, Nolan doesn't still entirely know how to write women, but it's an interesting take that, as far as I know, is completely added for this movie. But I did really like it. Again, Lupita Nyong'o is not in this movie that much, but every time she is, playing both Clytemnestra and Helen of Troy, she does a fantastic job. And then the final thing I have to spoil, at least my thoughts on the spoilers, is at the end of the movie. So Odysseus kills all of the suitors. In the book, it's Odysseus and Telemachus who killed the suitors. And Athena then comes in with a Deus Ex Machina and tells, hey, people of Troy, don't be too mad at Odysseus and Telemachus just because they killed all the rich people. Like, the gods kind of come in and tell the people of Ithaca, like, hey, it's okay. You know, he had the gods' approval to do this. In the movie, yes, the killing still happens. I think the final scene of Odysseus killing all the suitors is really well done. I do wish they had given Telemachus a little bit more to do. Like, he fights one guy and then gives his dad a sword. But I still think it's mostly well done. But at the end of it, because the reason why they don't want Telemachus to kill anybody is because then he would be exiled. Like, early on in the movie, he says he wants to kill all the suitors, and Penelope tells him, no, you can't, because that would violate Zeus's law. And, you know, all that. They do try, so, you know, they do try a little bit to reframe Penelope as a more feminist figure. She does also dress down Telemachus and call him a boy, like, know your place, boy, you are not king. But overall, again, I think Anne Hathaway's performance is fantastic. I think she does a great job in this movie, even if, you know, again, Nolan still doesn't really know how to write women, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine overall. And then, yeah, so at the end of the movie, Odysseus kills all the suitors, or at least most of them, you know, anyone who's not loyal to him. He kills Robert Pattinson's character, and then he is exiled. Because there's this whole, when they go to the underworld earlier in the movie, he talks to Sinon, and Sinon is like, why do you not honor your dead? Why did you trick me and not tell me you guys were inside the horse? Why do you not honor me on my death? And Odysseus is like, I will honor you. And Sinon tells him, after you are returned to Ithaca, head west, and there you will find a place to honor me and everyone else who has died. So at the end of the movie, Odysseus gets exiled, which does not happen in the book, and him and Penelope head west, while Telemachus becomes king of Ithaca. I don't really know how to feel, like, again, most of the changes, most of the additions, I'm fine with. This is the one I don't know how to feel about. Because the whole point of the story is Odysseus's, you know, 10-year journey back to Ithaca. And I understand, a big part of it is seeing his wife and kid again. And now that he has seen his wife, he has seen his kid, it kinda sucks that, he then immediately gets exiled. But again, I get what they were going for. They set up very early on in the movie that Penelope, you know, instead of going to the Trojan War, she just wants to run away with Odysseus. That at the end of the day, she's the one he cares about. And yeah, any other thoughts? Any other things? The Argos, the dog, that's something from the book that I didn't know if it was going to be in the movie. It's in the movie. They did not change it. There are multiple dog deaths in this movie. So if you care about the dog dying, the dogs fucking die. They get thrown off cliffs. It's a whole thing. But no, I like that. Overall, I think the movie's fantastic. I think it did a fantastic job at everything it set out to do. I thoroughly enjoyed it from beginning to end. I don't know if I'll see it again anytime soon, but what I did see, I loved. I truly did love. Christopher Nolan knows what he's doing. There's going to be a lot of hate. Again, Christopher Nolan's too big for his own good. He's going to get hate just for existing. Don't listen to the haters. This movie's fantastic. You should go see it. Everyone should go see it. For everything I talked about, there's at least one thing I didn't talk about. There is so much well done in this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. 9 out of 10. Loved it. All right, and I think that's it. I think that's all I got. So we will be back next week with, I think, well, we're still playing King of Cards, obviously, but the thing I'm excited for next week is Splatoon Raiders. Splatoon Raiders comes out on Thursday, and I am very excited to play it. We won't be streaming it or anything like that, but I just want to sit down, play some Splatoon Raiders, have a good time. That's, oh my god, it's been too long since the last Splatoon. At some point, we're gonna play through all the Splatoon games again. I know I only ever played the Octo Expansion 3 in side order. Yeah, I updated version 4. Version 4, baby. Nothing else has really changed. It's been about a year since version 2 was last year around this time. Yeah, I created this version around this time last year, and I was just like, yeah, let's do some updating. It's been a while. It's been about a year. Let's call it the seasonal refresh. I don't know if version 1 was just the original guy. It's, if we go over to my Be Right Back screen. So this is version 1 with the shirt and the sandals and whatnot. Then you have version 2, and this is version 4. Version 3 had some issues, so that's why there is no version 3. And then, yes, I do still have the marble. But yeah. But it was time for an update. I actually don't know if I have version 3. Give me a second. Let me see. Actually, the marble is version 2. Version 1 of the marble was different. Oh, hey, I do have version 3. All right, if I hit that, there we go. That's version 3. You can kind of see where the issue is. Hopefully you can kind of see where the issue came in. I know I could probably fix it pretty easily, but yeah. And I don't have version 1 of the marble, and I'd have to reinstall that. That was on a whole different program. Version 3 of the marble will be next year. Yeah, the transparent shirt. And like, I'm sure I could fix it, but I just created version 4. There were some other issues as well, but yeah. So there you go. Version 4. It's about time. Plus I had to do some updating anyways. It's version 4 is more accurate as well. The beard, my beard is more like this than it is the other one. Give it another 683 years. God. By that point, we'll all just be blinking lights in the Conchino-verse. So yeah, next week we'll be back. We got more King of Cards. I don't think we have a new movie next week. Next week will hopefully be a shorter show because we got no new movies. Maybe I'll finally watch Supergirl. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'll finally do that. I don't know. I have not watched a new anime, but I do have an anime recommendation. Kaiju Girl Caramelized is a romance anime that is currently airing. I think it's like 3 episodes in. I have not watched the anime, but I did read the manga like 7 years ago, and I fucking loved the manga. And I'm very excited to watch the show. And again, it just started. It's only a few episodes in, but the manga was so good. And I'm very excited now that it has an anime. So there's my anime recommendation. It's a romance anime, but it's a fun romance anime where when the girl gets flustered, she turns into Godzilla. Yeah. I don't. Last I checked, it wasn't Yuri. Admittedly, I eventually stopped reading. I eventually got up to whatever the current issue was, and I haven't touched it in years. But last I checked, she was still dating the guy. Okay, admittedly, they were having relationship issues. It's a whole thing. I don't know. It's good. It's good. I really enjoyed it. It's Kaiju Girl Caramelized. Why is it called Caramelized? Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil that one. But go watch it. It's great. I definitely have to get around to watching it because yeah, I loved the manga. But yeah, that's it. That's my one recommendation. Yeah, I think that's it. We'll be back next week with whatever else I've got. Yeah, maybe I'll finally watch Supergirl. I've just been putting it off for so long because it's a bad movie, and I know it's a bad movie. And well, I know I've seen a lot worse movies in my lifetime. As I get older, I just have less time. I don't know. I'm excited for Splatoon Raiders though. And we'll talk about that and everything else next week. More Yuris. Isn't there one that's airing right now? Oh god. I don't know. Whatever. With that, I'm gonna end off here. We'll be back next week, hopefully on a better day. I don't know. I've been I've been working myself to the bone this week, and so that's why we're doing it so late on a Sunday. I almost didn't do it today. I was like, maybe we'll wait until Monday, but I always do it. I always do it before the end of the week. That fucking cat girl one. Assuming we're talking about the same one, I have seen the trailer for that. That does not interest me at all. I get the joke of it, but yeah, the cat girl smoking cigarettes does not do it for me. The other cigarette one, the smoking cigs behind the convenience store, that one I've heard is pretty good. But the cat girl one, nah, no thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to end off. Hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Till next time, peace.